Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Welcome. First and foremost, my name is Daniel. I'm the Head of Enrolments here at FourthRev, and I'll be hosting today's session for the University of Cambridge Data Science with Machine Learning and AI Career Accelerator, delivered in true collaboration between Cambridge PACE and FourthRev. Today's session is focused on what employers are actually looking for in data and AI right now, how expectations are shifting with AI, and how you as learners throughout the program and beyond can position yourselves for real career progression, be that you're looking to change careers or advance your existing career. It is recorded, obviously, for those that can't attend, and for your benefit as well in picking up many of the nuggets that will no doubt occur throughout the session. We've got a fantastic panel for you. Please use the chat function throughout the session. We will certainly leave time for some audience questions to the end. And if we do run over time and we have to say farewell to the panel, I'm happy to stick around and answer questions specific to the program and your successful application of afterwards as well. Moving on to the next slide, and before we get started, a bit about Cambridge PACE and FourthRev. As the program is designed, the Career Accelerator is co-designed with industry to address one critical challenge. How do we prepare professionals to work with data and AI in a way that delivers real business impact? That was the challenge that industry put to us, both University of Cambridge PACE and FourthRev, through their input into the co-design of the curriculum as well. It's education for career impact, I think, is best how to explain it. The answer lies also in blending academic rigour, practical learning, real employer-based projects, and a portfolio of evidence to take away, all backed by the credibility, the global recognition of the University of Cambridge PACE. So it's a brilliant collaboration between Cambridge, FourthRev and industry for the benefit of you going further faster, if I can term it that way. We'll certainly unearth more of that as we go. But it certainly gives me great pleasure today to welcome an amazing panel. And as we come online, I'll ask that the panel also introduce themselves. First and foremost, Dr. Malak, welcome, and thank you so much for dedicating your time for the audience benefit. For the benefit of the audience, is it possible to get a little bit of a background?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here, and very nice to meet you all here. I hope you find the session useful. Yes, I'm Dr. Malak Olamaie. I'm a cosmologist and astrophysicist by trade. However, I'm working as a senior data scientist in the field of social history at the moment. So my studies, my background is Cambridge. I study at Cambridge. I have a PhD in astrophysics and cosmology, well, computational astrophysics and cosmology from Cambridge University, and worked in academia as a research fellow for quite some years before moving to industry. And as I said, I am currently working as a senior data scientist in the field of social history. And that's about me. Like I said, very nice to meet you all here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malak. It's great to have you, and such an esteemed professional with both a background in academia and industry as well. Thank you. Adriaan, welcome. Thank you also for your time today. A little background from yourself as well would be ideal.
Thanks, Daniel, and valiant effort on the name pronunciation, 99% score. So I'm a operations manager at a business called OfferZen. So we're a tech talent marketplace based in South Africa, but we work specifically with people in the software engineering space, and we do also do a fair amount of work with people in the data space, which I think everybody knows is growing at the moment. So yeah, I don't specifically work with data scientists all day, every day, but I think because we're dealing with high volumes of thousands and thousands of candidates, connecting them with companies, I'm hoping to be able to contribute from that perspective, i.e. what are companies looking for? How can candidates sort of best suit themselves to those opportunities? So yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, and very much looking forward to that perspective for the audience benefit. Last but not least is Fred. Fred, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Yes, I'm also a South African. I'm one of the career coaches on the program. I've been doing career coaching with FourthRev now since June 2022. And before that, almost 20 years of coaching, mostly leadership performance related focus. I originally did a degree in economics and marketing and worked in finance for about 12 years through corporate banking. Made the transition in my at a certain point in life, and then so the idea of working with career advancement, career change, that's the focus that the career coaches would normally look at. So yeah, and I look forward to working with you and also providing support on the program.
Thank you, Fred, and always envious of our career coaches in the job satisfaction that you receive guiding people towards amazing life-changing career outcomes. May it continue. Thank you also for everyone popping your location and introduction and saying hi in the chat. Just a reminder, if you've got any questions that you'd like us to come to at the end, please pop them in the Q&A. I'll monitor them as they come through. We'll use the chat for some polls and some questions, and also for some assets to be pasted in there as well. But to frame what the data landscape, the data science specifically landscape now, companies across industries, as we know, from anyone from healthcare to Formula One that was here where I am on the weekend, amazing to see some of the data scientists that work there, to fintech, all looking for skilled data professionals. The good news is the demand for data scientists far outstrips supply, making this a fantastic time to invest in your skills for the betterment of your career. Just quickly, as you can see, 10x more job growth. Adriaan mentioned also in his introduction as well, 10x more growth than national average across all occupations, and a steady income for those professionals, and 80% of the fastest growing roles in the world are data related. We're also seeing a major shift in the rise of large language models, agentic and generative AI. As we know, companies now expect data scientists to know how to build, fine-tune and integrate AI models into their workplaces and workflows, not just understand the basics. According to the UK Parliament research briefing recently, data science skills in the UK workforce, there were potentially around 178,000 unfilled specialist data roles in the UK, highlighting the serious supply and demand gap. It is preventing businesses from achieving what they potentially can through not being able to access the talent required. My first question for the audience goes to Adriaan. From a hiring market perspective, what do you feel has changed most with employer expectations over the last few years?
Thanks, Daniel. I would say there's been a fair amount of change across multiple vectors. Maybe some notes on what I think are probably the biggest ones or the biggest factors from where I'm sitting. Number one, I think employers have always spoken about, like, ideally candidates should be ready to contribute on day one. I think that bar itself has moved slightly in an upwards direction. Companies have become, I would say, a little less willing to hire for potential and just train people up. Ideally, they want to see evidence that you've kind of, to some degree, or to the sort of highest degree that you could have plausibly done so, already sort of done work in that field. Whereas before it might have been enough to say, like, oh, they seem smart, they'll probably learn on the job. These days with AI and stuff, a lot of people can upskill into anything really, really quickly. So the expectation is that you have done some of that on your own. And then maybe just another note on AI, the floor here specifically, I think in terms of productivity, that is also raised. I think that's another big one. A junior who is sort of completely out of AI, hasn't dipped their toes into it at all, no AI assistants, completely sort of natural, they are, I think, genuinely going to find themselves falling further and further behind. But at the same time, companies, I think, have already gotten better at spotting candidates who over-rely on it. We have had some time, or we've seen companies have some time to be able to figure out those heuristics. So you kind of have to thread the needle a bit. You can't be completely unexposed, but at the same time, it can't be, you can't just expect AI to execute your career for you, because people have sort of updated their hiring processes significantly to be able to spot stuff like that. So if you're on either of those extremes, you're probably going to struggle more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point that you make both at both sides of the scale. So, I guess if you can condense that in saying when they say they want AI ready candidates, what does that usually mean in practice? What's the sweet spot there?
I would say somebody who is familiar with the tools. You don't necessarily have to be an expert at anything, but I mean, as an example, if all you've ever done is ChatGPT or whatever, and you're showing up and saying like, yeah, I know AI, but you've just sort of been chatting away, no exposure to sort of, Claude code at a baseline, agent orchestration. Like if these are terms you've genuinely never heard of before, and you're going into data science as a junior, I mean, I don't want to say you'll struggle, but you're definitely putting yourself at a disadvantage because there's going to be a lot of candidates you have because again, the floor has raised, and it's all natural language. You don't even need to learn a single line of code, but at the same time, people who are familiar with um, some sort of Python or R or something sort of domain specific to data science, since that's the topic here, that plus AI is going to be your ticket. I think, because anybody can just sort of log into ChatGPT and make their application look good, but you need to actually know what the tools are and know what the right tool for the job is, which has always been the case, but it's a little bit more specific now, I think.
Exactly. That's fantastic. To summarize, and certainly the benefit of the program is deep Python and machine learning. We'll touch on all of that to be able to build the models as well as deploy, but also, I guess, the difference is around the business impact of that, knowing how that's going to impact. And you'll hear me speak about that quite a bit. Dr. Malik, with the rapid rise of AI and machine learning within industry, what skills do aspiring data scientists further need to develop in building or applying these technologies effectively in business contexts?
Yes, that's a very good question. And I just want to reiterate sort of previous statements around the fact that it's in the really fast moving world of AI and the tools that we're saying, an efficient data scientist really need to move fast and not just knowing the tools. They really need to be able to work with the tools and also to be able to interrogate the tools as they are using it to solve the problems. One of these skills that is very, very important and perhaps not very much emphasis has been on for data scientists is to be able to interpret the results that we are getting out of any tools that we develop or use and be able to describe it to stakeholders that probably are not very technically fluent or literate. And I think that part of the job is very, very crucial. They probably, stakeholders are very clever people. They might not have technical knowledge as much as a data scientist, but they're really, really good at spotting the loophole. And if you probably have taken a solution from one of these automated tools without even knowing what it means and what it has done, you exposing yourself very soon, and they will be able to spot that, and you won't be able to answer any of those probably really, really deep dive questions that they might ask you. So I would say having a good communication skills is the key to be an efficient data science. In addition to all of those technical skills and knowledge you have, aside from, yes, you need to know maths, you need to know your statistics, you need to know your coding. But you also need to be able to tell the story and
Yeah.
and be able to actually communicate the results of highly technical um, results to stakeholders, and that's the key in the business world, and that's where the actual value is coming. You have used a tool, an automated tool, you have developed a tool, you have done a very top-notch, let's say, forecasting tools that is going to forecast, let's say, the number of sales for the next year or so. And that is going to determine strategy and the planning of your business. So it's a lot at stake. So if you don't know, if one doesn't know, how to sort of transfer that, how to actually clarify and go into details, that assumptions are made using those models. I just need to have a detour here. and use a famous quote: no models are complete, no models are correct, but some models are useful. You will never ever be able to get 100% solution to a business problem. That is not going to happen. And you would be very naive to even think that even with the latest technology we have, you're going to be able to do that. And the key as a data scientist is we need to be transparent. We need to be truthful to our stakeholders. We need to make sure that they understand the biases, the assumptions that have gone into the models. And that is not achieved by just copy and pasting the results from ChatGPT or Cloud Coder, etc. So we need to know where those approximation has played a key in the results that we're getting, and we need to make sure that we communicate this to our stakeholders. So these are the key skills that an efficient data scientist need to develop aside from the technical knowledge and experience.
Brilliant. That's really, really insightful. I hope the audience take note of a lot of that, all of that. As I said earlier, the recording will be available, and I think that section is certainly worth revisiting. And I guess while demand is high, employer expectations are even more nuanced than ever. Being able to just build a model is no longer enough. Employers increasingly expect data professionals to work end to end, as was just mentioned, understand the business problem, deal with often messy real-world data from multiple sources, communicate insights clearly across multiple stakeholders, sometimes customers, sometimes government, who knows, and show how their work leads to decisions and business impact that you'll always hear me go about. This is where sometimes many candidates struggle to articulate not only their new skills often developed through a program such as this, but their transferable skills from professions previous. Adriaan, where do candidates most often misunderstand what employers expect from them, do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a very important question. So I think number one, listing tools is not the same as demonstrating skills.
Yes.
I think people make this mistake quite often. Like a candidate's going to write, proficient with Python, SQL, TensorFlow, and they're going to think, cool, great. The employer now knows what I'm capable of. The reality is, like, so what? Like, you know these things exist. You can write them on a piece of paper. Like, what an employer wants to know is, like, can you do something with it? Can you build with this? They want to see a project, whether it's in a production setting or, whether it's academic, whether it's something that you've taken on in your spare time. I think people underestimate what that communicates about their skill set, whether or not they've built something with it. In a similar vein, I think academics, maybe this could be a contentious topic, but like academic or course projects are often undervalued by candidates. I often will see a candidate, borderline apologizing for not having industry experience, but they did 20, projects over the last few years that they've neglected to list. So if you have a well-framed portfolio project, clear problem, method, outcome, all documented, these are, I think, a lot more compelling than what people otherwise might think. And then one more point is just domain knowledge. I think this is a real, genuine differentiator that a lot of candidates often ignore. A data scientist who can speak the language of the domain or industry that they're applying into, whether it's finance, retail, healthcare, whatever it is, I think is meaningfully more attractive to an employer than a sort of generalist. And this doesn't have to mean you've worked there. These are things that can come through in your communication, how you communicate impact, how you communicate the work that you've done. You don't have to have worked in finance, but if you can understand how to articulate how a model that you've built could be useful in a financial product, for example, just by doing basic research, I think you set yourself ahead of a meaningful cohort of your sort of competing applicants.
I love that. That resonates so much because, as we'll get into shortly, this whole program is built around practical learning that contributes to a demonstrable portfolio of evidence, culminating in a real live industry project at the end, wrapping that with domain transferable skills, as you've mentioned, is a powerful proposition, and Fred will certainly give us a bit more on that shortly. But to Fred as well, when candidates struggle in interviews, what part of the story is usually missing? Is it problem framing, impact, confidence, domain experience or knowledge, as Adriaan just mentioned? Where do you feel that they're missing the link sometimes?
Well, thanks for the question, Daniel. Yeah, I think the one that comes through, or the one that's probably the most important, is impact. I think impact would be the critical point to cover. And it's basically, I think, in general, if one looks at those three areas that you're looking at, problem framing or whatever, most people can do that pretty well. So you can normally describe what the situation is or the task that you faced, and the kind of context. People tend to be able to tell a pretty good story there. But when it comes to the impact, the critical part is, I mean, this is where I think people fall short is, and again, it links to what Adriaan said as well. So the so what question. So what changed because of what they did? What results were achieved? Why did it matter? Why did the work matter? And people are looking for, or the interviews are looking for outcomes, specific outcomes, such as revenue generated, costs reduced, time saved, risks maybe mitigated, customer satisfaction figures improving, team performance, etc. So ideally bringing in something quantifiable and to illustrate the impact that one has. I think that's the most important one to focus on. And the confidence one, it's a theme as coaches we often deal with. So it's sometimes an issue, but I would say it's secondary. Let's say if you're looking at impact's most important, confidence does matter. And in most cases, if the impact is clear and measurable, you normally have the desired impact on the interview, a positive impact. And I think a simple way of looking at dealing with these kind of questions in an interview, we often talk about the STAR method or the CAR method. It's pretty much, the CAR would be basically the context or the story that you've got. So what's the problem? And then the actions you took, as in what did you specifically do? And then what was the result or the impact? That's the R. So if you're going into an interview and you use the CAR kind of model, it tends to get you through in a succinct way. It gets you through the critical points. And I think the bottom line is work on impact. How can you communicate impact?
Exactly. Great segue into how one can do specifically that in the program as well. Let me just change slides, or just make sure we've changed the slides. And you articulated that really well, Fred. I guess having career coaches alongside to prepare one and to build one's confidence alongside a portfolio. As today, having a portfolio is a major differentiator that's already been highlighted for data science. It's in particular, portfolio-based learning allows you to showcase real-world projects that have been developed with Cambridge and industry that reflect your competencies and problem-solving abilities. This approach not only solidifies your knowledge, but also enhances your job prospects by mirroring the job environment you'll soon enter, exactly what Adriaan mentioned. So during the program, learners don't do exams. Why would you want to, is my question. Learners work on more than 20 industry-relevant projects, alongside then a 6-week live employer project with organisations such as the Bank of England and many others that we work with on different intakes. So a portfolio is critical in that aspect. But for Dr. Malak, in your experience, what makes portfolio work so effective in demonstrating real-world readiness to employers?
Well, basically, that kind of shows a proof that a potential data scientist has already worked on a real data and tried to answer some of the real world business problems. So that would be an evidence even for those who probably in a transition phase, they are changing fields, they want just to go to data science, they probably haven't had a chance to work any data related projects. So that's literally gives them the opportunity to work on a real world problem. And it's on a standard, really real world. It's not simulation. It's not like we have created data. It's actual real world data with all the messiness that it comes with it. So which gives a good advantage to all the candidates in comparison with those who probably never had the opportunity to work with a sort of real world business related problems. And also more into that, it actually would give a sort of opportunity to see how the process works, how the journey sort of pans out from the very much from the starting point of an employer coming and sort of laying out the problem, the business problem they are trying to solve, into the sort of end results throughout the techniques and the tools that the learners are going to use to solve it. And what we are trying to do in FourthRev with the employer project in particular, throughout the course, all the learners are going to have a chance to sort of learn all the classical models and sort of data-driven models and tools that exist, within the community to use. But so is any other course. So any data science course will have these tools and these materials, this content, etc. But what is really special about this? It's not that I'm just promoting it because I'm teaching it, but it's the truth, because we give you literally all the methodologies that already exist. And employer project, when employers sort of giving us their problem, they already have a very well-known data science team on the floor that already working on that problem. So they probably have some ideas of the current and existing models and they may have already applied it to that very particular problem. So what we're trying to do with the employer project is to actually encourage our learners to come up with more innovative and sort of original methods that probably that employer hasn't heard of or hasn't had a chance to even implement that. A good example is actually the recent employer project that we had with the last cohort. And for the very first, and it was a time series forecasting problem, and it's a very classical problem. There's nothing really special about the problem. It was just we had some data and we were forecasting the number of sales, etc. This could be done with all the classical models. You can only just do a Google search and all the methods will come up. So that's fine. That's absolutely fine. There is no sort of saying that you shouldn't be using any of these methods. And every single of these methods, they will have their own merit. But what we wanted to try is for the first time in the entire community to actually try to encourage our learners to use generative AI and large language models to actually build the forecasting tools. This is done for the first time, and our last cohort literally was the very first cohort that was able to do that. And when we did that, and when the different teams were able to build these different tools, obviously it's not easy, it's challenging. It requires a lot of intuition, a lot of studies, a lot of sort of work. But basically the result is really rewarding, because for the first time we were able to actually demonstrate to our stakeholders a methodology and the techniques that never tried before. And in addition to that, we were able to actually do a comparison analysis with different models and different tools. So stakeholders were able to see the full picture, and that's what I really recommend. I know that there are loads of sort of latest technology, latest tools out there, but don't just try sort of take them off the shelves just for the sake of it. Try to sort of make it meaningful in order to make the independent comparison between different models to solve the same problem. And that's how you see different biases, etc. And what we also trying to encourage our learners to do is to implement a hybrid way of sort of solving problems in a way that just try to identify which tool does which area they do the best, and pick that one and sort of mix it and combine it with the other model that probably is doing well in another area. So sort of build a hybrid model. And that is how it showcases your ability, your capability, your knowledge, and your experience. And you go to an interview with a portfolio like this, the employer will be fool not to hire you. That's the reality, and that's what we're offering in this course.
That's fantastic. And the employer project is so unique. We work with different employers on different data related, AI related challenges, but to actually build the tools, and there's some questions that I'll come back to in the Q&A already that relate to exactly what you've said about building that and positioning yourself as one with the experience in which to do so. I'm going to move on. We've got some questions coming through. We've got a lot more slides to get through as well. But industry aligned certifications that this is from Cambridge PACE offer validation of your skills, especially when they come from such a respected institution such as this. Research shows that certification can significantly enhance your career prospects by signalling verified experience, job-ready skills, hands-on capability. They're often the difference between theory in qualification and practical in certification, I think, is a simple way of putting a blanket over them. In this case, obviously co-designed by employers who need these skills. I've got a quick question for the audience. Do you feel certifications and practical learning, especially considering portfolio-based learning, are essential for career advancement and for you to enable your change into data science? Yes or no? And if you could include what it is that you're seeking. So yes, you think it's important, change. So yes, you're looking to change careers, you think it's relevant, advance your career. You might even be looking to commence your career. Let us know in the chat how you feel regarding that and what it is you're seeking to do. In the meantime, Adriaan, how do employers actually view certifications, and what makes one genuinely valuable rather than just decorative?
Good question. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I'll venture saying it anyway. In my experience, certifications are often seen as more of like a threshold signal, especially like, I guess, the more sort of traditional ones, rather than like a real differentiator. Like they tell a hiring manager, this person has been exposed to a certain set of structured information. They don't necessarily tell me, if as a hiring manager, can this person do a thing? They tell me that this person sat some classes, ideally they listened to some stuff, but we can't like peer into somebody's mind and experience their sort of qualia of learning. So we'll just never be able to know if they're actually able to execute practically on what the sort of hands-on implications of that would be. But this is me talking specifically to just certifications. In my view, what makes a certification actually useful in a hiring context is what's attached to it. So I'm going to go back to portfolios again, and I promise I'm not getting paid to promote this, but it is very true from my perspective. A certification that is associated or one that produces a real portfolio of actual projects that, importantly, the candidate is able to talk through fluently and confidently in an interview is where you're going to get your money's worth and your time's worth. If it produced a PDF and a LinkedIn badge, less so, in my view. So that's maybe the hot take portion of this commentary. And maybe just to go back to like the sort of employer project model that you guys are referencing here, I do think this is specifically the sort of thing that can close the gap. For example, the average company who is doing work with supervised AI model learning or whatever, they don't necessarily care that you just studied that. They care that you applied it to a real data set in a real organization, and you're able to explain what did I learn, and also very importantly, like what are you going to do differently next time? Like at a certain point as humans, we need to start focusing on like how do we actually add more value than an AI model? And that's something that as a human you can do. It's like, well, this time I got this outcome. And next time I think I'm going to do something else differently. And if you can walk a hiring manager through this, you're doing a lot more to sort of validate the value that you can provide. And then I think maybe just finally something I want to potentially leave people with. A certification from a respected institution, like we're talking about Cambridge here, it does open doors. It signals effort. It signals that you were able to put time and dedicate mind share to this consistently over a period of time. Not to mention credibility, even though that's potentially subjective, I still think it matters. But it's the work that you did during that sort of period where you were working on this certification, this project, that's actually going to get you hired. You don't just sort of flash the certification and they let you in the building. Here's your badge. So you actually have to demonstrate that you can do something with this. And what I'd maybe want to leave people with today, once you finish a program, once you finish a certification, once you finish a course, employer project, all of these things, just don't stop building.
Yes.
Respectfully, tons of people are going to have done this course. So just imagine yourself standing next to all the other people that did the course. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from those people? Plausibly, you would have learned how to make a thing during this course. Use the knowledge of how to make a thing to make a thing. The certification, I think, should be the starting point of the portfolio conversation, and your portfolio shouldn't only be the thing that you were forced to do in order to get the certification. Doing more there, I think, is an extremely positive reflection on you as a candidate.
I love that. And at the risk of going over time a little, I'm going to just take a little tangent before I give an overview of the program, because what you've both touched on just now is exactly what our actual business is: education for career impact. We recognize that there's a gap, and we bridge that gap between academia and industry for the learner's benefit. So that's the vision of our co-founders, both passionate educators themselves. And that's the Career Accelerator model now that's seen thousands of learners go through a number of our Career Accelerators. But what you've both just described is exactly our business model, knowing that there was that gap in the market: education for career impact, enabling people to go further faster. So I'll quickly run through the structure of the program. The Career Accelerator includes 3 courses made up of 20 mini and major industry relevant projects that all contribute to your portfolio, your development of the portfolio, along with that live employer project at the end. Course 1, applying statistics and core data science techniques in business. Even in the course title, you can see it's about the application of learning in a business context. So it's highly technical, yet it is extremely practical from a business perspective, and you'll be able to demonstrate that through not only the learning, the portfolio, but also the coaching that will help you shine. Course 2, solving business problems, again with supervised learning, and course 3, applying advanced data science techniques. First 2 courses run for 6 weeks. There's a week's reflection in between. Course 3 runs for 8 weeks with a break in the middle. And then you'll be grouped together with 4 or 5 other high caliber learners in a team. You'll meet with one of our industry partners who will present to you a real data related challenge, as Dr. Malak outlined. And as a team, and through applying the learning in a practical sense from those first 3 courses, you'll come up with innovative and tangible solutions to that scenario, or build models to generate solutions for that scenario, as was demonstrated, presenting your recommendations and innovations back to that employer in a consultancy style presentation at the end. The benefit of that is numerous. It's practical application of learning in the real world. Again, a portfolio piece to demonstrate. It is brilliant for networking both with your peers, of which is huge value, but also leaders, data science leaders within industry. And lastly, when it comes time to demonstrate to an employer, it is a much more powerful demonstration to demonstrate your real world practical experience than it ever would be to recite an exam result. In addition to that, it is aimed at level 7 equivalency. So it's a postgraduate style of learning and standard of learning. Obviously, I'll go through the entry criteria in a moment, but it's an undergraduate degree or relevant industry experience is an entry requirement. And that becomes particularly relevant when supporting learners with personal branding and LinkedIn profiles, along with your portfolio as well. I guess on that point, Fred, first, how do the coaches help learners position a level 7 equivalent program clearly and confidently in their CV and LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, it's actually quite an important point. We normally talk about, okay, UK level 7, generally in the UK, those are master's level studies. We always recommend to the learners to include let's say the length of the program, because this is not a weekend course, it's a 6 6-month, 7-month program. It is a UK Level 7 program. It is an UK Level 7 / I normally ask people to say, just put a UK Level 7 / master's level, but it is a not credit bearing, as in non-credit bearing is important. So to a reader looking at your profile, looking at your LinkedIn and your CV, you can legitimately, under the education part of your CV and LinkedIn, when you've added in the Cambridge program, you can use that information to describe the substance of what you've just completed. I also generally recommend that people also use some of that language in the about section or summary section, especially if they're in the job search process, so that it stands out. If you're pushing for a data science role, you want to make sure that the person picks it up very quickly in the early summary or the early about section on your LinkedIn profile. I think the other one, which is an important point we didn't cover early on, but just the point around the employer project, we generally encourage everyone to include it under work experience. So you can legitimately include that 6-week employer project work experience in your CV and LinkedIn under work experience. And the coaches, we have all the tools to show you how to do this effectively. So when we talk about your branding, the CV, the LinkedIn, and your portfolio, the portfolio is essentially a website demonstrating the visual element of your new set of skills. But that's, I think, Daniel, I hope I've answered the question for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the interest of time, I'll move along to a couple of important slides upcoming. And firstly, a quick overview of the next presentation commencing on the 27th of April. We say apply by the 20th of April, but you should apply much sooner than that, because the sessions, the intakes do sell out. The time commitment is roughly 20 hours a week. It is designed to fit in with you more so than you fit in with university. What I mean by that is there's a blend of synchronous and asynchronous learning. You will attend live sessions with the academics and industry mentors as well, the facilitators. The majority is asynchronous, meaning you can choose when and how it fits in with your life as well. It does include 12 months of one-on-one career coaching with Fred and Co, ensuring that you can position yourself, build your personal brand through the development of your portfolio, digital assets such as LinkedIn, all those types of things, ensuring that you place yourself in the best way possible to obtain your intended outcome. We've mentioned the portfolio. The price is £8,395 with a fee reduction for upfront payment, or we do offer interest-free payment plans over either a 6-month period with no fees and no application, 9 months period, or to make it more accessible, we do offer longer payment plans through a finance provider such as our trusted partner in StepX, where you'll be able to spread payments over a 24-month period. That's subject to a finance application, and it is only available to UK or EU residents. You also get to go to Cambridge often. When I say often, twice during the Career Accelerator, you'll go to Mattingley Hall once for a networking event that we just did recently. And if you look on our LinkedIn page or even Cambridge Pace's LinkedIn page, you'll see how good that panel discussion was in person, and people dialed in remotely as well. And we also host graduation ceremonies there, and you'll always be invited to those networking events moving forward as well. So it's a big proposition in terms of the learning first and foremost, the coaching, the portfolio development, and your engagement with others at Cambridge as well. Very quickly, there's a great deal that this builds in terms of your AI capability, not only the foundations in statistical thinking, problem framing, leakage bias and variances, but machine learning, generative and agentic AI, and deployment and responsibility. There's a whole theme of that obviously running throughout not only the whole program, but through the practical elements as well. I'm going to touch slightly more on the coaching, and I'm realizing that we are going to get to the audience questions quickly. So I might just ask Fred, if you can, just a very quick overview on this slide regarding how the program supports real career goals through the coaching process.
Thanks, Daniel. Yes, I've already mentioned, let's say for career changes, career advances, the idea of rebranding or positioning your brand. would require looking at your CV, updating CV, and we've got best practice layout, structure, etc. There's the LinkedIn, which is part of the branding and CV. They normally go together. We look at both at the same time. And then your portfolio, which I've already mentioned, basically a website with all the visual aspects of your skill. And there's also interview prep as a critical part of what we do. I think that's pretty much the coaching at this stage, Daniel.
When we always survey our learners, it's often, and I guess that's our fault, it's often somewhat surprising the value of the coaching that it has provided learners in assisting them obtain their intended career outcome, that one-on-one trust that's built with the coach relationship, and the peer-to-peer learning that goes with that, with those group sessions is, I won't say undervalued, but extremely valued at the end of the program when that's achieved. Just quickly moving on, I just wanted to touch on entry criteria. It is an advanced data science and AI program. Obviously, there's prerequisites as well. So to obtain entry, you need an undergraduate degree that features at least 1 unit of quantitative studies. It could be anything in the forms of mathematics, statistics, accounting, finance, anything like that, along with 1 year of work, a minimum of 1 year of work experience in a role that is exposed to data in any form. Obviously, there's the IELTS requirement and foundational technicals in Python. When I say foundational technical skills, if you don't have Python skills currently, we can help. It is a matter of submitting your application, receiving your offer from Cambridge, and we'll enrol you in a short Python course and give you a mentor as well to help you through. The intent of that is that you from day one then learn data science skills, not the basics of Python. You really only need the libraries of NumPy and Pandas, along with some visualization, and we've got a free course that will help you do that. If you're ever not sure, please book a time with your enrolment advisor and they'll walk you through. Before we go on to what to do next, let's get to some audience questions. Firstly, Lionel has asked, I'm just going to move this question box over here. Is 103K per year is for freshers or experienced? It's usually for those that have been in the industry. However, some people with transferable skills and domain knowledge in particular areas could expect that, but it is for as an average across industries. It wouldn't be as across experience levels. It wouldn't be for an entry level. It's fair to say. Now, Dr. Malak or Adriaan, what would you say, as Anonymous has asked here, what would you say are the right tools to focus on? It's a bit of an open question. We might just do a quick fire response to that one if you've got a moment.
Yeah, I would say obviously data science covers a really wide spectrum of skills and tools, but I would say basic sort of statistics and coding to start with, but then we sort of provide you with all the tools you need throughout the course. But I also would say that you really need not to be sort of discouraged by the theoretical aspect of the course. So I would personally expect everyone to go through all the theoretical foundation of what we're offering. So please try not to skip those pages when you are provided with the material, because they are there for a reason and they are important for you to understand. So yes, definitely focus on that. But yes, you need to have a sort of basic sort of mathematics and statistical knowledge and a bit of a coding knowledge to understand it and to be able to sort of go through them. That's what I say.
Brilliant. Thank you. Eboka's, and thanks everyone for your engagement and continued engagement as well. Eboka's mentioned that they're currently a software tester. It looks like it's not a good venture for people without Python knowledge to go into data science. Is this assumption correct, please? As I've just touched on, I think you're very well placed to make a transition if that's what it is that you're seeking, and being a software dev or software tester is one of the pre-approved occupations for entry into the program that I didn't go through them all. But you can learn, and I think with your background, you'd pick up the basics of Python quickly. At the end of this program, you'll become certainly an expert in all aspects that will enable you to demonstrate that to potential employers as well. Adriaan, what type of questions are typically asked in a technical interview?
Very broad question.
Yeah,
So I'll try and answer that from a sort of first principles POV that I think aligns with what we've been saying. I think increasingly you're going to see fewer and fewer instances where it's just like, talk to me about your technical knowledge. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that used to happen, but I think more and more, and I think it's actually good that this is happening. Like we were talking about before, I think everybody on this panel mentioned some version of be prepared to explain the work you've done in potentially excruciating levels of detail. Like, why did you choose every tool that you chose? Okay, it can't just be like, oh, it's the first one that popped into my head. Like, you need to have a justification for why you did this rather than that, because that is essentially how you're demonstrating that you know what you're doing, and that you're going to be the sort of person who can solve business problems for them. You can't just show up and be like, felt right. Unless it's it's a vibe coding position or something. But even then, the bar for vibe coding has gotten higher, so you should still be able to justify those decisions. So, in summary, like, be prepared to describe practical outcomes that you've made, all the decisions you made along the way, and I suppose just be able to provide a value proposition for why you decided to do what you did. Because even if that question doesn't come up, that is the information that you can sort of adapt to any question in a technical interview.
Yeah, exactly. This one's I've been looking at for a while, and it's in two parts. Eunice has asked, is the demand for data scientists decreasing because of AI APIs and the growing number of candidates in the market? Because I feel that data science is being impacted by big AI companies providing ready-to-use solutions. It was a great question in two parts, and I wanted to refer back to that earlier with the example of being at the forefront of this change through undertaking learning such as this and positioning yourself as a part of that solution, not, as Adriaan mentioned earlier, not being at the underling of the tools in which you can choose. So sorry, do you want to also, Fred or Adriaan, explain a little bit further about that and how, when I think back to the introduction of, I'm an old man, Microsoft Office suite of products, I remember everyone thought Excel would kill accountants, and I get a similar vibe now regarding AI. Is that correct? And is it decreasing, do you feel, or are there opportunities for those with the relevant skills to shine in this market now?
If it's okay for me just to jump in there, and then I'm sure Fred will have something to add. I kind of agree with the sort of last bit there, like, the world didn't end because we don't use Lotus Notes anymore or whatever, Lotus 123. I think the POV that I can describe this from most confidently is from sort of general software development, which I think is very solidly in the crosshairs of AI in a lot of people's worldview. And we can't see the future, but at the end of the day, the all that AI, as wonderful as it is in terms of like helping people, code up various projects, all that's done is gotten people who probably wouldn't have otherwise written a single line of code in their life to write some code. Those people aren't going to go on. It's like, oh, wow, we don't need senior software engineers anymore because so-and-so who wasn't going to ever code anything can now code a thing that they don't understand. They will, in my sort of worldview, I do not see why, if you're a business leader and you're thinking like, for X spend, we can generate, so many features, so many lines of code, therefore we're going to cut down the spend aggressively. I don't see why you couldn't, with the same logic, just say like, no, we're just going to get a lot more code and a lot more features. I don't think there's any requirement to believe that there's going to be fewer software engineers. And I think that sort of lens of analysis can probably be applied similarly to data science. And even then, like, a data scientist, I would imagine, has a pretty, or somebody who understands data pipelines very well, probably has a better understanding and is positioned more competitively rather than not competitively in a world where AI is more ubiquitous. That's my sort of intuition, but it's all predictions at the end of the day, I suppose.
Brilliant. Thank you. And we'll get through some more questions. I'm conscious of time. Anonymous has asked a good question because I think this is relevant for everyone, and I'll stick around and answer more after the top of the hour if required. But someone said, what resources do you provide for those that might be struggling? Many is the answer. First and foremost, you've got your the Cambridge academics and facilitators there to assist. There's an amazing shared learning platform called Circle where you learn from each other, not just you and your tutor in those live sessions. It's invaluable to learn from each other. There's also a success manager. If you're struggling, you can have a one-on-one with your success manager. They'll help you with a revised study plan or ask questions about giving up that Netflix series to dedicate a little bit more time to study and get the home truths from you. You've got so much support from industry mentors that occur each fortnight, the Cambridge academics, the success managers, and each other. And the career coaches, obviously, is the cornerstone of that support. So it also blends into the next question. Thank you, Aboka, for your continued engagement. For those of us on full-time employment, of which almost 90+% of our learners are, what sort of flexibility is available? It's flexible in that you choose outside of the synchronous sessions. Usually there's a live session of a lunchtime early in the week and an evening later in the week. Then 80% of that 20 hours a week or so, you choose how that fits in with your life. There are sacrifices. It is a commitment, obviously, to go from sometimes zero to hero over a 7-month period in data science and AI, but that is what it takes to go further faster as well. So it can be done. Think about the sacrifices, talk to your enrolment advisor and talk to those around you as well. Some people are having difficulty accessing the links in the chat. If you can cut and paste them, that may be better. I know some platforms enable it and some don't. So we've got 2 minutes left. Industry's hiring data scientists. Audrey, great question. It is vast. Sporting organisations are relying heavily on data scientists now. The NHS is going through a full digital transformation. Government agencies, private sector. And what we are seeing a trend of is also small to medium enterprise and NGOs also undertaking digital transformation. So the typical ones in healthcare, finance are there and always growing, but you'll find need across all spectrums and industries as well. Great question. I might just come to the other questions. Vanessa, Hugh, Timi, I'm going to come to your questions now before those of you that need to drop off, and for me to say thank you to the panel. I thought I'd just ask the audience to take the next step. You've invested time in yourself today to attend. You haven't sacrificed anything, you've invested in it. And often you're seeking something, whether it be a change in career or whether it be an advancement in your career for the betterment of your career, income, family, whatever that may be. Take the time to review what's gone, what you've understood today and heard today from the amazing panel. Speak with your enrolment advisor and take that next step. Be that lodging your application, be that booking a time with your enrolment advisor, be that speaking with those around you who may be impacted by you dedicating time for the betterment of what I mentioned earlier, yourself, your career, your family, your income, and those things. It's a positive thing. You found something really, really relevant that will enable you to achieve that. But I would like to thank Sam in the background, Adriaan, Fred, and Dr. Malak as well. You've been brilliant. You've inspired me. I'm sure you've inspired many in the audience. If you have to drop off, thank you ever so kindly. And I'll come to the additional questions that are occurring now. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fred. Timmy, you've got a good question here, and I'm going to answer that question. And please feel free to ask as many questions as anyone needs as well. I'll stick around. Timmy's asked, would you recommend doing 2 big projects for your portfolio or multiple smaller projects? Personally, I think the multiple smaller projects culminating in a big project with, and I'm biased, we designed it this way on purpose, is ideal because it's going to expose you to more. What I mean by that is, as you work through a module within one of the courses, you might get a business case study in healthcare in which you work on. It might be a business case study in transport and logistics. It might be a business case study in health. You're going to be exposed to more scenarios that are applicable to other sectors as well. So if your transferable skills are finance related, but you've seen something in a healthcare related business case scenario that you've adapted to your portfolio, but can see how it can be innovated within a finance perspective, then that's a great thing. So let me just explain. They're mini and major projects as you go along through the first 3 courses, but then culminating in that employer project. So there is a blend of both, but the exposure to more is often best. Hugh, I have a background in digital marketing. I know basic stuff about statistics, but not all that much. A bit about Python, but not confident as I just self-study. So I'd ask how long the Python preparation is for. Great question, Hugh, and it's great that you've got an understanding already because you're further advanced than many that have successfully commenced and proceeded and succeeded in the program. It's about a 20-hour program that we run you through to get that level of competence and confidence to the point of kick-starting the commencement of the program on day 1. You do go through a process. So you'll submit your application to secure your placement with a deposit. You'll get a letter of offer from Cambridge. Then we'll give you that 20 hours of assets to go through, and we'll check in with you and check in on your progress for that. There is then a self-assessment tool so that you can undertake a self-assessment that involves 10 multiple choice questions and 3 basic coding examples, and giving you a score so that you are knowledgeable, comfortable, and confident about commencing with that basic knowledge of Python. The more the better, and you've got 8 weeks before commencement, so you've got plenty of time in which to do not only 20 hours, probably a bit more. On the self-assessment coming up as well. So you'll get an invite to that, Hugh. Next one, Vanessa. For people who are looking to pivot their career into this field but don't have much coding experience and are not necessarily looking to gain deep technical knowledge, do you think this is the right course? My goal is mainly to get an overall understanding of the machine learning world while moving strategic roles rather than technical ones. That's a really good question, Vanessa. And it's a very personalised one that I feel would be best answered by either a conversation with myself or one of the team of enrolment advisors, because having a technical understanding of those that you do lead is of benefit, but whether you need to be this technical is probably the question that you need answered, be it on reflection for yourself. The enrolment advisor will also, or myself, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to organise a time. We will ask questions that help you self-assess, but have us assess also what is of the best value to you. And if it's not this one, we've certainly got other programs that I think might align, or if none of them do, we'll let you know that that's not the case for you, that you're better off doing something else. But I'm sure with what you've said, I'd probably like to discuss it with you because I think I've got a solution for you as well. Hugh has also asked, what really involved with the coaching? Will it be domain knowledge as well? How often is the coaching? Is it one-on-one? Well, learn to have questions. Okay. No, the career coaching is not relating to so much of the course. There's Dr. Malak and other Cambridge academics that are there for the technical aspects of the learning. There's the success managers to help you with anything course related, study habit related, and the like as well. The coaches are there to support your outcome. So at the commencement of the program, you'll go through a rigorous goal setting process with the coaches. You'll then meet with them one-on-one, usually monthly, depending on if you've done the work in between the sessions. There is work to do from a coaching perspective. But you'll develop a very close working relationship with that coach. In addition to the one-on-one sessions that they host, you might say, okay, my challenge is networking. I struggle to build a professional network that I can reach out to when I finish this course to put myself out there and say, I'm ready to apply for roles. They will also host group sessions where people share learning. So it might be a group of you that are having a similar challenge. They'll help with strategies, but you'll have concrete outcomes to bring to the next group session as well. So it might be that I've found a way in which to effectively word my LinkedIn outreach to data professionals, and this is what I'm going to bring to the group to share because it got me 10 new connections this week. majority of it is one-on-one with the coach, but there's those additional shared learning opportunities as well with the coaching. I can't stress enough how valuable that coaching is. If you were to have 12 private sessions with an experienced careers coach, it'd cost many thousands of pounds, and this is all included. It is a true benefit of the program to not only have that coach, have you define the goals with the coach and a strategy towards executing the outcome, but also to help your domain knowledge in other areas or similar areas shine, along with your new skills in AI and data science as well. So it's a great package. Hugh, thank you for your continued input into the questions. I think you'd be a great candidate, and I think you'd also obtain great benefit from that. As I mentioned earlier, take the next step. I'll finish with a question for you all. If you had 2025 over again, think to yourself, what would I do differently if I had last year over again? If I was to ask that question again of you in the future at the end of 2026, what do you have to do today to ensure the answer to that question from a professional sense is I would do nothing differently? Is it booking a time with your enrolment advisor? Is it submitting your application? Is it committing to yourself and saying, I'm going to do this for the outcomes that I want to achieve? It helps break down that big goal into decision-making, into smaller decisions along the way, stepping stone decisions. And one of them was to attend today, which you've done. So well done. We look forward to supporting. We look forward to welcoming and supporting, but most of all, celebrating your success in this most innovative program with Cambridge PACE. We hope to see your application come through and see you at Cambridge as a learner as well.